Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. My name is Tommy. I'm a human nutrition student and researcher at the university, and in this type of videos I synthesize what I learned during the classes at the university. This is the series of the health nutrition, and today we're going to talk about how to find good information on the internet, the direct and the indirect calorimetry, and the nutritional state valoration. So let's begin. How to find good info on the internet. It is not recommended to use Google. Since Google is an index browser, it can only show the indexed sites, websites that are out there. So it's not complete, and most of the times it gives us results about blogs that everybody can write. So what to use instead? Google Scholar, PubMed, ScienceDirect, and Examine. These are examples of good websites to find good information, good scientific information. Yes, because they are all based in the scientific method, which is to observe, to ask questions, to create hypotheses, do some experimentation, and reach some conclusions. And the types of questions we ask ourselves can be either general or specific. So for example, what is the keto diet? It's a general one. A specific one can be, for example, is the keto diet effective in treating diabetes? And so on. So general and specific. And there are different types of studies, as you can see. We have the quality of information increases as the study changes. So meta-analysis and systematic reviews are the ones with more quality. It means they are better. And again, to find those studies, we use these websites. Direct and indirect calorimetry. Energy is the ability to perform a work. 1 calorie equals to 4.18 kilojoules, and it is described as the amount of heat that is required to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water by 1 degree Celsius. Calorimetry is a test to measure the heat generated by a chemical reaction. So how many calories are burnt. Direct calorimetry is a comparison of heat exchange between the body and the environment, whereas indirect calorimetry is the production of CO2 and nitrogen waste, or from its consumption of oxygen. So if we calculate calorimetry using this method, we will see changes in CO2 and O2, and this is because indeed to create heat these two components are needed. I mean, you need oxygen and you release CO2. Energetic requirements. Here we talk about total and basal metabolism. So a positive balance is when you have an excess of calories, and this can lead to diseases such as obesity and overweight. And then we have negative balance, which is malnutrition. We will see this in more detail later. What about anthropometric data for the kilocalories calculation? We have both direct and indirect methods to calculate the calories we burn in a day. The direct method uses the height, the weight, the folds and the perimeters of our body, whereas the indirect uses formulas for estimating the calculations for this method, or bioimpedance scales. These are special scales that use electrical current, and you must be fasting without liquids in your body, I mean dehydrated, no alcohol consumption, no diuretics, no metallic objects. You have to urinate before, and no menstruation for women when you want to use an bioimpedance scale, because if you don't do this, the results are going to differ a lot. And then we have the DEXA scan, which studies the body composition. So it's able to locate where the fat is. This is a pro compared to the others. Moving on, we have the nutritional state valoration. So this differs from the healthy individual and the sick or pathological one. We look, when we do a valoration of the nutritional state, at the anthropometric values, using direct ones mainly, as we started to talk before, which are weight and height, the concept of ideal weight. An example of calculating the ideal weight will be the height, your height in centimeters, minus 100. So if you are tall 185 centimeters, then your ideal weight will be 85 kilograms. Another direct method is the arm circumference, less than 22.5 centimeters. It means that your body mass index is lower than 18.5 and you are at risk, you are underweight. The skin folds, using a body fat caliper. The waist circumference, which must be below 88 centimeters in women and 102 centimeters in men, because over these values you are at risk of cardiovascular diseases. And the hip circumference as well. This is the ratio between your butt and the hip. If you have more circumference of hip than the butt, you are an android, which indeed is the apple form. And if you have the reverse, then you have the pear form of body. Then another way to get nutritional state valoration is through the analytical test. In the blood count, we can view if there is an anemia in the body, anemia detection. Using biochemistry values, we can determine carbs, fats and proteins. In carbs, the glycemia, the concept of glycemia is the amount of sugar someone has in the blood. Glycemic load and glycemic index are concepts of how the sugars enter the blood. The load is the amount. Glycemic load of rice, for example, is around 80 grams per 100 grams of product. Glycemic index is how fast those sugars can reach the bloodstream. So how fast you are able to digest and absorb those carbohydrates. If they have fiber, the glycemic index will be lower than if they haven't. The also relevant test is to detect the gestational diabetes in pregnant women. This is a very interesting test because you give glucose to pregnant women and then you see how they react to it and if there is an insulin resistance. Then talking about fats, the cholesterol and the triglycerides. Cholesterol, total cholesterol, HDL and LDL. Proteins, the basal nitrogen balance or the creatine height ratio are tests that determine either if we have a protein malnutrition or not. Then also the levels of albumin, prealbumin, transferrin and the retinol binding protein, which is correlated with vitamin A. The transferrin lasts 10 days in the organisms, prealbumin lasts 2 days, the albumin lasts 30 days. Albumin indeed is similar to the hemoglobin A1C, which determines the amount of glucose there was in the bloodstream for the last 3 months. And levels lower than 3 of albumin are dangerous. And then the last way to determine the nutritional state of an individual is the clinical and dietary ways. Clinical is basically that we find a problem from a diagnosis. So, for example, someone has a problem, goes to the doctor, gets diagnosed, and we find the problem. Whereas dietary is more like we find an intolerance or an allergy, there is a disorder in chewing or swallowing, dietary disorders, and also when doing food questionnaires, maybe there are some answers that are not normal. So, what do we understand as malnutrition? Malnutrition can be done with deficiencies or excess. The excess is overweight and obesity and everything that comes with them. Whereas deficiencies, there are two main ones. The energetic deficiency, so we lack mainly calories, causes the marasm. Whereas the proteic deficiency, when we lack proteins, is the kwashiorkor disease. There is also the mixed one, which is marasm and kwashiorkor, so energetic and proteic deficiencies, and also deficiencies states in which there are micronutrients deficiencies. For example, you follow a balanced diet, but you have a deficiency in, let's say, vitamin D. That's a deficiency state. micronutrient deficiency are the most common ones in our society. And there are, of course, levels of malnutrition: mild, moderate, and severe. Okay, so that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you understood everything I said. If you didn't, there is a comment section down below. Remember to like, subscribe, and share this video to your friends and family. Don't forget also to turn on the notifications so you get notified every time I upload a new video. You can download this diagram by clicking in the first link in the description down below, and I will see you in the next one. Ciao!